So if you'll notice, my glasses are kind of fucked up, but hey, it is what it is, man. You can't always have things go your way. So it's kind of a beautiful day, and it's windy, but it's not bad weather. So I thought I'd go ahead and just record, go ahead and vape a little bit, talk to you guys, and all that. I'm using the White Dart, the Nord White Dart, the Nord 5 specifically, Nord 5 White Dart. 2000 mAh battery, and it goes up to 80 watts, but I keep it down to 35. Something that really gets to me a lot is this idea of adaptability. And so I want to talk to you a little bit about that. So for me, adaptability is very important, right? So I watched a lot of YouTube channels, and honestly, a lot of times, like, I'll come across a YouTube channel, and sometimes, like, 90% of the material won't really strike out to me, but I'll listen because I'll find a diamond in the rough, right? And that's what's really important is being able to stick through something to the end, because you can still learn something even if most of the material is stuff you already know, and it can still be a good refresher for your mind as well. So if at first you don't succeed, they say try again. And I'm not necessarily saying that's wrong or right. I'm just simply presenting that there's different ideas as well, right? So there's this idea of avoid, adjust, alter your thinking, right? So if you can avoid something, right? This is one idea or option. This is not a way of life or the way of doing things, just to keep that in mind. So for me, if there are certain things that are just way too stressful, I'm going to avoid them flat out. Like, I'm going to avoid them. I'm going to discard them. That's just what it's going to be. If I can't do that, or if I don't feel like the cost benefit analysis is important enough, like, and what I mean by that is if the costs outweigh, if the benefits outweigh the cost, then I'm going to alter, I'm going to adjust it as much as possible, right? So whether that be like, so I have extreme OCD, pretty bad, to the point that it can be crippling or debilitating to even form a sentence sometimes, right? That's how it used to be. Now, of course, I'm talking, I'm being able to interact with people, and the reason is because I adjust my life based on the fact that I have OCD. I recognize that I cannot live a normal life like most people. That's just not going to happen, right? That's my truth. That's my way of thinking. That's my way of life. Like, I'm just a person who's always going to have OCD, as far as I can see. One guy who really helped me out was listening to Adam Meyer Clayton. I really like his stuff. I really think he's a good advocate. I think he's, God rest his soul and 1,000 blessings upon him. Listening to him helped me out a lot. Like his suggestion, like if you have extreme problems of reading and you're not there yet, to listen to audiobooks, right? Because sometimes we try to force stuff so much that we get into this learned helplessness and we start to despair, right? So if something is really hard, why take the path of most resistance? I'm going to take the path of least resistance. That's what I'm going to do to make sure that I can get shit done. Now, of course, exposure and response prevention is important. I recognize its role and stuff, and I think that it is extremely helpful. And at the same time, I see this insistence upon, I see people, they insist upon themselves in the sense that treating OCD is not just ERP. In fact, there's entire treatment modalities that are based without any ERP in general. One that helped me an extreme amount was inference-based cognitive behavioral therapy. In addition to that, what also has helped me is this book called Anxiety Happens. There's also the book OCD for Dummies, right? So I found that for me, my adjustment was that instead of traditional therapy, I would do the self-help route. Now, am I saying that's the right route for everybody? Of course not. Like, cite what I've stated at the beginning of this video, just as a refresher. So there are many different ways to go about and complete the same thing, right? Like they say there's many different ways to skin a cat. And so in getting better, you have to recognize that there are different approaches that will still lead to the same outcome, which is getting better. So for me, I had to start off small. And so I started off with audiobooks. Now I can read, and I'm almost to the point where I would say I'm in remission. And I'm not quite there. And I will still probably have relapses, sometimes major relapses. But each time it happens, I'm not back at square one. And that's something that I have to keep in mind in perspective. Each time I'm learning something, which is what got me to the dance last time. And each time I have to learn that what works one day may not necessarily work another day, vice versa, right? So like, it's just a fact that, you know, what my best looks like every single day is going to be different, and that I'm changing as a person constantly. The person who I was yesterday and today is not going to necessarily be the person I am tomorrow or 10 years, 20 years, 30 years from now. So I have to recognize that what works for me now may not always work for me forever. And that if I set my sights on simply one treatment path, or if I set my sights on one method of victory that led me to the dance over and over again, then I might be fucking myself out of a real opportunity to enjoy life. And I have to recognize limitations sometimes too, right? So just like there's physical limitations, I think there are mental limitations, and that's why adjustments and altering things are so important. So, you know, back to the whole alter your way of thinking is, you know, if you can't avoid it, if you can't adjust it, maybe alter the way you're thinking about stuff, change the way you see things, and maybe a better, more positive outlook. Or perhaps you're being toxically positive and you need to be a little more realistic. It's really hard to say, because a lot of psychology is a study of populations. And I think the really good part about spirituality and Buddhism, and specifically secular Buddhism, is in meditation and mindfulness, is there's a huge emphasis on studying the self and being with the self. And I think recognizing that you are your own best advocate is one of the most powerful and influential things you can do as a human being. So to recognize, to communicate with somebody, hey, this is not working for me, what are my other options? And it's such a powerful question, but it's something that people don't often think to ask. Instead, they try to do the same shit over and over again, and they keep failing, and they keep failing, and they keep failing, and then they wonder what the fuck's going on. And they don't address maybe some barriers that are barriers to entry, or an unfortunate fact is sometimes ERP just doesn't work for it. You know, it's not a one size fits all. It's not going to cure everybody, you know, and it's not going to treat everybody either. And I say cure like, you know, it's debatable if you can ever really be cured. But then there are people who say they're cured. So I don't know. Right? That's the biggest thing. Who am I to object to a person's personal truth? I can't say. That's the problem with like having soft sciences in the first place, is that they don't have like 100% effective treatment methods. And even if you look at the medical model, there's so many different ways to treat blood pressure, for example. Like a person's individual, biopsychosocial factors will play a huge role in how well they metabolize certain medications and how well they can tolerate those medications. So I think that's really important to look at. And if you go to 10 different doctors, there might be a general academic consensus, and at the same time, there might be one or two who have a different opinion, whether it varies slightly or it varies to a large, 180. It's a spectrum, right? So when we treat people, like we'll see that different doctors have different ideas. Like I remember one that I went to, a psychiatrist had this idea of putting me on Vraylar, and then another one had an idea of putting me on aripiprazole. This is a good example of like a slight deviation, right? Where they're both antipsychotics, and at the same time, they're not the same thing, right? And then another one wanted to put me on mood stabilizers, and then another one thought, okay, you don't need to be on mood stabilizers at all. In fact, there's some real risk to your weight. And I did gain a lot of weight. If you can tell, I'm kind of fat now. And I don't really mind that. You know, I've lost weight. I was at almost 260 at one point. Now I'm down to like 236, I think, last time I weighed myself. And coming off the mood stabilizers was really good. And like they say it all the time, but it's trial and error, right? And just like it's trial and error with with medications, it's often trial and error with coping techniques and with effective therapies. Keeping an open mind and being able to approach things in that manner is something that's helped me a lot. So I don't despair. I look and advocate for myself and decide, what's easiest for me and also what's most effective, and try to find a healthy balance between those things. And then I also look at how important something is to me, right? So I'm not going to do something if it's not important to me. Like, that's just not what's going to happen. Like, if it's like the difficulty is extreme difficulty or like ultra nightmare or something like that, like as Doom would say, I'm not going to do it unless the cost-benefit analysis is worth it. And so I think learning general principles of CBT is really important. I know sometimes CBT gets a rap for minimizing individual struggles, and at the same time, I still think there's some wonderful principles in there. And that's why I think not just using CBT is important, also at the same time using acceptance commitment therapy, dialectical behavioral therapy, rational emotive therapy, trauma processing, support groups, peer support. If you go to church, like I know for me, the church helps a lot. There are different things, and that's why, this is not a one-size-fits-all or even a one-thing approach. It can be a holistic approach. I know some people even swear by Ayurveda, the whole Vata, Pitta, Kapha and stuff like that. And I, for the longest time, used to be like, well, there's no scientific evidence, we can't really study this very well, and, there's no data to support it. And then I recognized, like, okay, I understand that the data is limited and that many things point to it not being effective and being, kind of like hocus pocus. I can't deny that a lot of people swear by it, and a lot of people's personal truth is that it's helped them. And that's something that I've had to be really, I've really struggled with, and that I've had to deal with and grow personally, is like, if something works, but it's considered dumb, it's not dumb. And hearing that really stuck out to me, because for me, now I recognize there are certain parts of Ayurveda that I really do like. I don't know if I agree with the medical parts of it necessarily, but I do like certain parts of like cognitive fingerprints and stuff like that. Or I do like some of the diet aspect and talking about the gut microbiome. I like those things. And I think if you take those parts, Dr. Mike talked about this brilliantly on his podcast in an interview with Alec Canoisa, where like, if we can take the parts of Ayurveda that do work and bring them over to the West, I think that would be really incredible. And it could be something where we could study it more. But even then, I think people get so caught up in studies that they limit their options very much so, right? Like, there are some things that have worked for me that just people would call woo-woo. Like, a lot of people say religion is, God is fake and all that. And I'm not here to argue about that, right? I believe in God. It's helped me a lot. And for me, having a religion, or just having a faith, if you want to call it, just having spirituality, has helped me a lot. Just believing in something has helped me a lot. I don't believe in necessarily the traditional Christian God or anything like that, but I do believe there's a God out there. I do believe somebody's looking out for me, and that helps me and makes me be able to move forward in life and to stay strong and resilient. And it's something where I can pray and have time to reflect in serenity and silence. So that's really important to me. And even now, like, I'm learning, like, there was a lot of pagan traditions that I really like. Like, I remember I was so skeptical on, like, the tarot readings and stuff. And honestly, the tarot readings can give you a lot of cool stuff. Now, of course, you can argue that a lot of the things are overgeneralized and people tend to pick out things that, that confirm what they want to believe, and then ignore the things that tend to contradict the accuracy of the tarot reading. And I would still say it's limiting, you're limiting your expansion into other avenues that could help you. Like, there's a certain limit to where, like, if you're such a skeptic that you just question literally everything all the time, then you're going to have a very slow journey. Now, am I saying to open yourself up to charlatans and stuff like that, or to snake salesmen? No, of course I'm not. And that's really annoying that I have to state that caveat, right? But again, use your best, your own discretion, right? But for me, opening myself up to these other avenues have really helped me and have improved my life. And, I haven't talked about this on the channel much, if at all, but I was a terrible partner to Billy, and Billy helped me by leaving me, and Connor helped me by sending me to psych ward. And I will forever love those two, like family, to the bottom of my heart. I don't care how they feel about me. I don't care if they hate my guts. I don't care if they want nothing to do with me. And I don't blame them if that was the case either. And I won't air out dirty laundry. I just want to let you guys know that they helped me improve myself when I was a piece of shit and I was doing horrible things because I was hurting and I was ill. And I don't think fully like that they were perfect people too. I think they, ragged on my name a lot and sometimes, misunderstood me and my suffering. But I appreciate what they did for me. I appreciate that they helped me. Even if it was only from, I don't know what their intentions were, even if it was only from the place of getting me the fuck out of that house that same day. All I know is that they led me on a path that improved my life significantly. Now, when it first happened, I was pissed off and I was upset and I was angry. And I was thinking like all these different things that weren't very nice. And I was just feeling like, I should still be at the house. I should still be able to work my job and all this. But that was entitlement, and that wasn't coming from a place of understanding that, like, I alone don't get to make that decision, Other people have to be involved in that as well. And, even if I was quote-unquote right, which I don't think I am to this day now, the current version of me thinks I was in the wrong. I would say 95% was in the wrong. Maybe even 98, 99% was in the wrong. Like, almost 100. And I don't say that about anything else, but this one case, like, I was a pretty bad monster. Like, I did some monstrous things. I said some monstrous things that if people never have learned may never forgive me. And that's okay. Like, I did a lot, but like rebuilding your life is something that's always possible. And that's something that I've learned is it's not too late to redeem yourself. It's not too late to do good work. I may never have that friendship or relationship back. And maybe I will. Who knows? Like, maybe they'll be my friends again. Maybe they won't. I do not know. But what I do know for sure is I can learn from that experience and I can do the opposite. They call it opposite action. So I can do the opposite of what I did then and improve people's lives, heal people, love people, give people the understanding and care that they deserve. And people who are going through what I went through, living with borderline personality disorder, I can understand them in a way that most people aren't going to understand. And people that are going through homelessness, I've been there. I was like on the streets. I've been in some shitty shelters. I've been through it all this last year. And now would I do it again? That's a funny question. No. But I'm grateful for it. I am grateful for it. Because in the end, I ended up reconnecting with some old friends, people I've known for a decade plus. I ended up meeting a lot of new friends. I'm back out there living my life and rebuilding myself. Like, my health anxiety is pretty much cleared up. I mean, I'm fucking doing this shit, right? I'm not saying this is like this is the right path to do and to go a complete 180 like I did. I'm not saying that. I still work out though, by the way. That's not going to change. I love working out. But, I'm not living like I used to. I wanted that to be a lesson so that way I didn't hurt somebody like I hurt Billy and Connor ever again. Like, they didn't deserve the things they went through. They didn't deserve how I treated them and how I put their household into a state that was unsafe and dangerous. Like, they didn't deserve any of that. That was something that was my fault And I have to own up and take accountability for that. And there's no other way to say it. And I realized as well that, like, I would just avoid conversations. I would lie. I would make up stuff. And I just didn't want to live that way anymore. Like, I was tired of it. And eventually I was left with no choice but to either be better or to just end up spiraling down, and who knows what would happen. And that's just a fact, dude. Like, sometimes you don't get to make things right with the old people, but you can make things right with yourself. And that's what I'm trying to do now, is I'm trying to learn from my experiences and from my life. And I'm trying to open up new doors and avenues. And that's the other thing, like I was talking about, back to getting better, is like, open up to people, talk to your friends, be radically honest, tell your truth, see what they have to say, and consider different options, and understand that on the other side of discomfort is opportunity, is growth. So sometimes, if you are always running away, the fact is it's going to hurt. And it's going to hurt more and more, and you're going to train your body to be hypersensitive to that experience. And that's what anxiety does, is it makes your life shorter and shorter and shorter. It makes it smaller and smaller and smaller. And that's not what you want. If you're already suffering now, and you allow anxiety to dictate you more and more, what's it going to be like 5 years from now, 10 years from now? Like, is that something you really even want to see happen? And so they say, if not today, then when, right? So every day, every second is a new chance to be a new person. I've seen people change slowly through the course of 20 years. I've seen people change at the drop of a hat. It doesn't take much, but it does take something. And that is what helps me a lot, is to keep that in mind. It can just start with a little thing, right? It can just start with a change of perspective, with reflection, whatever you want to call it. It can start there. And that is a beautiful thing to know. And that is a beautiful thing to be able to access. The fact that our human mind is so capable of not just hurting us, but helping us. But yeah, I've spent so much of my life being a piece of shit. That's just what it is, dude. I'm not even going to lie about it. Like, anybody out there who hates themselves or anything like that, I get it, dude. Believe me. I have spent so much of my life lying, cheating, stealing, just being a bad guy. And I'm tired of that. And at some point, I remember there was this saying I was told, right? Where it's like, real change I don't remember exactly how it goes, but it's something like, real change comes when the pain of staying the same outweighs the pain of changing. So now, I might talk some more, but I might also just vape and chill here with you guys for a little bit. It's nice to be able to talk like this. I love this channel, and I love you guys. And you guys give me a lot of strength and encouragement, and that's something that I don't take for granted. I recognize that my subscribers are good people, and the people who comment as well, even if you're not subscribed, and the people that I play games with and stuff like that. Don't forget to live your life, by the way, It's like, as a kid, we have all these ambitions and dreams and these hobbies. But then, as we grow up, it's like we tend to forget it. We get caught up in the monotony of life. We get caught up in the rat race. And we forget to have our little hobbies and our little activities and stuff like that. So try to make time for that. You have to take care of yourself. And I think a community is really important. We are social creatures. Our very existence has been designed around being around other people. And some people might argue, well, what about the Buddhist monks and stuff, or the people who live on their own? Again, exceptions to the rules are always going to happen. In general, overwhelmingly in general, You are going to need people in your life. So yeah, I take the bus system now. I'll walk around places just by myself. Like, I don't worry about being out in the country as much anymore. I'm not saying it's completely cured. I'm just saying that the pain of staying the same outweighed the pain of changing. And I never, ever try to forget that day if I can. When I make an effort to not forget that day and what led up to that. Because those mistakes can happen again if I start thinking shit is sweet, right? If I start thinking, I'm not saying to live in fear or live in, this state of perpetual paranoia. I'm just simply saying, like, be aware of what got you there in the first place. And make sure that you stay consistent. Maintenance, right? If you don't do maintenance on your machines, if you don't schedule maintenance for your machines will schedule maintenance for you. And you might not like the time that they do it either. They might break down at 2 a.m. Now you have to do the work. And you've been there for 12 hours and your shift's about to end. Nope. You need to do maintenance on your mind. Your mind is your whole body. You got to do maintenance on it. Because if you don't, your body will decide to do it for you. And if it breaks down, oof. You wish you would have just done a little bit of maintenance every single day, just little checkups, daily checkups to make sure everything's running fine, little tweaks that take you 5 minutes, but now you've got a 30-hour project on your hands. But of course, there's always going to be people who say, well, I'll worry about that when it happens, or, I'm different, or I'm special, and all this other shit. Maybe. But is that a gamble you really want to take? But who am I? I'm just some guy on the internet, right? At the end of the day, that's all I am. I'm not the arbiter of all truth or some dude who knows everything about everyone, about, all that shit. I'm just speaking simply from my life experience and what I've learned so far. And I'm hoping to save you guys a lot of hurt and heartbreak that I myself went through, so you don't have to go through it and learn it the hard way. But if you do, make sure you learn. At the end of the day, people are always trying to teach you, right? Even if they don't realize it, and even if you don't realize it. People are always teaching you either what to do or what not to do. God, it's such a nice day out. Flowers are blooming. Birds are chirping. It's spring. Ooh, little cold now that it's starting to get darker. But hey, we ain't no pussy. We ain't no bitch. I love you guys. Thank you guys for being around this channel for so long. I think that about does it for me. Like, comment, subscribe, share with a friend, dislike it, disliked it. All that good shit. Until next time, guys. Hope you have a great one.